Hi, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk, where we talk about all things that have to do with money, how to find it, how to get it, how to grow it, how to hang on to it. But we also talk about ways to improve your message so that your audience identifies with you. They hear what you do, they hear who they are, and they lean in because your message is tight and what you do so you can attract more business. So today I have a very, very special guest for you. A no nonsense. And when we're talking about money, sometimes we need to just have a no nonsense attitude. But right now, I want you to do two things. One is don't keep this to yourself. No, like, love, and share us. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned because we'll be right back. Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda Kaye's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda Kaye. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
Well, I did say I'm going to have a very, very special guest today. So our special guest, as I said, has a no-nonsense approach in helping businesses and business owners build, polish, and refine their skills so that they can create their own business empire. Well, I got to tell you, I know many of you are thinking about building your empire or already have one, or you wonder, how do people get those? Well, we're going to find out the real secrets. So welcome to my stage today, Christine Campbell Rapin. Hey, Christine, how are you?
I am ecstatic to be playing on this conversation with you today. Thanks for having me.
Business mentor, coach, business strategist, speaker, you do it all. How do you find the time?
Truthfully, you create time.
Isn't that the truth? That is so true. And, you know, I think that for many business owners, I'm going to get my screen a little higher. Business owners, they tend to get a little mired down in the things that have to be done on an operational level. Mm-hmm. And when we get stuck in that space, we kind of lose track of the longer vision of what the business and the company is doing. Yeah. What do you say about that?
I 100% agree. You know, I tell people really candidly, I didn't set out to mentor. It was not my goal. I didn't get out of bed one day and say, I'm going to do this. But I have had a lot of success in the world of helping people create money, particularly money in the business space. And I built my first business an hour a day.
Wait, Christine. Do you sell seeds to that money tree?
Yes. Yes, I can. It's such a funny thing, though. Like, you know, people think it's really complicated.
Well, we tend to make things complicated. There's two things. We can overcomplicate them or we can oversimplify them. But when we overcomplicate, isn't it in our heads first that I have to wait until I have this. I have to wait until I generate that. I have to wait until the business is done. I have to wait until the funnels are completed or the copy is written. Yes. But I think you have something different to say about that.
I do. I know. And this was the real light bulb moment when I realized how much complexity people are diving into, was when I was watching people who spent their full-time equivalent building a business, and I built my business 1 hour a day and mine was further ahead. And I was like, you guys are making it way more complicated than it needs to be. I believe business is elegantly simple. It is not effortless. I am not a unicorn in the sense that I do something remarkably different than other business owners that are successful, but I'm very focused on the things that move the needle. And most people don't know what moves the needle. So that's why they love the complexity, because they're like, it has to be 10,000 things. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
Not true.
Oh, no, you're right. Because if there's a complexity, a formula to it, I don't actually have to go do it. Because I know it's so complicated, I can't get going. I'm guilty of the same thing. I mean, I will tell you that honestly, I have launched 2 or 3 like summits or events or things like that. And then when we hit a snag, some of us kind of take that personally, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of advice would you dish up to our audience that says, you know, get over it?
Well, the first thing I always remind myself, so I always talk to myself the same way I would talk to my clients, which is you don't control the outcome, but you control your activity. And so I tell people two things: predict your revenue in the next 90 days. I don't know when somebody's going to say yes to my offer, but I control if I made one, and I control if I was being really disciplined about identifying who is my next buyer. And so when we do start to, things don't go our way, we do not get yes to everything we do. We do not get yes to every first attempt. But I really remind myself, I control my actions, and my actions accumulate and they snowball. And so dust myself off and get back into what actions can I do that I know create income, the offer and the people.
So if you never make an offer, or you make an offer to the wrong people, you've got a complete disconnect. Now, you said something interesting, Christine. You said you built your business 1 hour at a time. So were you working another hustle? Or was this a side hustle for you?
It was a side hustle. And it wasn't mentoring that I first started with, because I said I didn't get it. I was building a business on top of a very big corporate career. I was running half the country. I was traveling a lot. I was raising a family and doing other things. But I knew I wanted to create additional income. And I knew that if I could use my business skills towards that, this would give me a shorter path to some of my financial goals. And it was through this, 1 hour a day that people observed. People kept saying, "Can I buy you coffee?" or a glass of wine, depending on how you knew me, and said, "What gives? What are you doing in that time?" And I said, sometimes it was 5 minutes in a Starbucks lineup. Sometimes it was waiting for the airplane to take me to my next business meeting. Sometimes it was, at a hotel lobby. And I said, I was disciplined about 1 hour a day. And when I first decided to start down this path, I was just about to be married, and my then fiance kept saying to me, "So what does this mean? Like, we don't have a ton of capacity." And I said, "Well, you guys watched 2 episodes of Friends. I will start building a business." And it was through that discipline that people kept saying, "Can you tell me how to play and win in the world of business?" I'm like, yes. I didn't realize how many people didn't have knowledge about foundations of business success. And there's a whole bunch of people that will take your money in complexity.
Oh my God. My pockets are empty from the people picking it to tell me how to do something who gave me absolutely nothing in return. Now, that is not to disparage the people that really have given something. I mean, we are part of a mastermind that we get fed on a daily basis, but not all of us are so lucky. You mentioned something about foundation. What are the basic foundations of your business that you would tell our audience if you're going to build one an hour at a time?
Yeah. The 3 things, there's 5 pillars every business needs. And I always talk mostly about the first 3, because 4 and 5 don't really start to really ramp up if you do not do the first 3 really well. The first one is you have to get really clear who is the next buyer. That not necessarily is the same of who's your current buyer. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They are not determining where on the continuum of a buyer's journey they want to build their business around. And if you can't figure this out, you sound like everybody else, you're in the wrong rooms, and it's very hard to build your business. So the first piece is the next buyer. Then you have to have a strategy.
Hold on, let's stay focused on that one for a second. Let's explore.
Love to.
The ability to be able to identify who the next buyer would presume that you actually know who your buyer is.
And it's like an onion. You don't often, this is when you first start, you have some assumptions. That's both about who you think it is, who you think you want to serve. And often I will tell my clients, it's an onion. Keep digging, keep digging, keep digging, because there is a marketplace that is looking for you. You get to choose. This is the coolest thing about entrepreneurship. You get to choose where you play. So you can choose to also change where you play if it's no longer providing you what you want. But the thing for me is, I think of it like a continuum. And I said, I want you to decide where you want to intersect your buyer, where you're going to see a connection that feels like oxygen, where you're like, I really see you. I really understand where you're going. And I want to spark curiosity.
They get you. You get them. You've got this, this thing that seems to be gelling. But you said focus on the next. So where are you getting the first? Because I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong. They think, oh, I have to do all these things, but how do I find that first client?
I actually think it's not so much about the first one, it's about the second one. Because the first one often will be an accident. Truthfully, my first client in my business consulting came really accidentally. I was not prepared to make an offer. I wasn't really clear what I was going to offer. And someone who met me in a conversation simply said, I actually don't want to talk about what I came here to talk about. I think I need to hire you. Tell me what it's like to work with you. And I was like, I clustered it. Truthfully, for a girl who's in sales and who spent a lot of time in the world of business, I clustered it. She did hire me. I completely undersold myself. And it's a giggle to this day. And she's been a long-term client, but the rates have gone up a lot.
You're asking yourself, God, what would I charge for this? And sometimes we don't know what we would charge for it, but maybe we could think about what would we pay for something like this to take that problem off of our plates, right? I always advise my own clients the same thing. Know what problem you solve. Sometimes we don't understand to all its dimensions, and because the business is going to expand over time as your needs for your clients expand over time. But if you don't have a single clue about what problem do you solve, wouldn't it be hard to find an avatar, find the person that you're going to reach out to?
That's right, because the avatar is an interesting marketing strategy and tactic, because it does help you write copy, it does help you pick graphics, it does help you kind of feel the theme of your business, but it's not necessarily easy to recognize her in the lineup. And
okay, tell me more about that.
I tell people, I said, if you're thinking that if you can describe her demographics, that you're going to recognize your next buyer, you're sort of chasing your own tail, because what they're not looking for is a demographic match. What they're looking for is a result, and a result is more important than the demographics. And so when I was in this bumbled first client experience, I said, what do you think I can do for you? What's the result you're looking for? And why would you choose me as your guide? And I got that. It was a huge light bulb, because I thought, I didn't even know I was selling that. And do I think I could do that? Yes.
Did you actually ask that? I'm just
curious. I did, because I was like, wow, I was not thinking I was going to be making an offer. And so I said, and it's still to this day, one of the most valued questions I ask always before I lead to an offer. And this is how I would do it. I said, what result are you looking for? Why do you value that result? And why do you think I'm the best guide for you? And when they tell me, and I'm listening and I'm assessing, do I think it's a fair play to exchange value around? I then ask this question: would you like me to make you an offer? And without a yes, I don't make one.
Interesting. Right, because why would we push ourselves on somebody? It sounds to me like you've got quite a bit of sales experience and knowledge, Christine. And I will tell you that in my own experience, I have never sold a product. I've never sold anything. People buy because they want something. They want to fix a problem. And I think that message is so important for our listeners, because it's very easy for people to go, oh, you're just like every other salesperson. And I hate to be put into that category, because I'm really a consultant. I really need to know what you need. What result are you looking for? So that sounds like the very same thing. So we're on a roll here, Christine. You said there were 3 pillars, and that was our first one. So what is our second one?
The first one, and this is also something you usually discover after you have felt the exhaustion of complexity, which is you have to have a strategy, a marketing strategy that will pull a potential client, buyer, customer, use the word you'd like, from curious to paid client. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what tactic you want to use to grow your business, because the tactic is a personal choice based on your style and how you want to grow a business. But having a strategy is not optional. You have to have a predictable way to move people. And in this digital world, we know about the 0 moment of truth. People will research you 7 to 12 times before they're even visible to you. Never mind the steps they're going to take once they are visible to you. And that means a lot of steps, a lot of touch points, a lot of testing congruency, saying, I think she's capable, I think she's credible, I think she is somebody I want to spend time with, way before we make the offer. But most people simply go, I'm just going to use a tactic. And they start running with the tactic, throwing spaghetti at the wall, and then wonder, well, how come it's not working, but it works for them? I said, well, you're not comparing apples to apples. What's your plan? How do you want to play? And what are you going to do to move somebody?
What's the difference between a tactic and a strategy?
A tactic is the execution, and a strategy is the concept and the framework of a decision. So I always tell people there's 4 questions every business owner needs to ask. an answer to themselves before they can get into the marketplace successfully. Who am I and what do I stand for? What marketplace do I want to play? And that's that intersection point I mentioned. Why and how will I win in that moment? And what capabilities and capacity do I need to play there? Short-term, midterm, and long-term. And those are, I said, big, simple questions that we often just skate right by and don't spend enough time thinking on. And then when we get into the marketplace, people are like, I don't really know what you do. I don't know how you're any different. I didn't even know you were making me an offer. And we really make it hard work to get to the yes. But the strategy is you fundamentally get to ask yourself those questions. And I think, honestly, it's hard to ask them to yourself. I think working with people like you, Linda, and people who are good in the world of strategy that says, let's get this clear, because it's the heartbeat of every decision you make, every financial investment you make, every offer you make. And truthfully, if you want to love your business, you want to love the people that come in to ask you to work with them, these are not optional.
They really aren't. But what you have just defined, Christine, is still there's a thin line between strategy and plan. So now how do you dig into and fill in the gaps?
Yeah, I often think of this idea of, when you talk about strategic planning, because a lot of people think that strategic planning is the same as strategy. I fundamentally believe they're different things.
I do too.
Because you're horse trading at a strategic planning. You're not thinking of expansion. You're not thinking of white space. And for me, the big goal is, what do I want? And then the plan is, how do I get that? How do I create that? How do I expand around that? And I think the key thing is, yes, you need a plan, but you need to know where you're starting from. And starting from is your strategy. It's the vision. It's the piece that I said that helps you decide and check and make decisions. And a lot of people avoid strategy because by its very nature, it's loose. What I mean by that is it will flow. It will adjust. You get to always check in with yourself. And if you're running a team, other people that say, is this how we want to show up in the world?
And it has to be fluid, especially if you're working with other people, right? Because not everybody's going to, think in exactly the same way or the same space, have the same expertise, or even have the same skill set, which is, really key for you to understand when you're attracting your team or you're attracting your people. But when people get stuck, where are you seeing them get stuck?
The first thing that people often say to me comes into two key questions. Number one, I don't know what to say to get a yes. That's usually a marketing messaging piece.
Mm-hmm.
What they often say is, I'm not in the right rooms, or I don't know where to find my next buyer. And those are part of those first two foundations you need to get clear. Because I think what often happens, I observe this pattern all the time, is we get into the rooms of enlightenment where our current clients already have found us, where our peers are comfortable, and other people really rise us up that we know what we're doing. But I said the danger around that is you're a likable expert in that space and nobody's buying from you.
So there's the problem, right? So is that in their messaging or in their tactics?
I think it's a tactic decision at that point, because I said, you're in the wrong room. Staying there is a choice. That's tactic. You want to get out of that. And then they say, okay, well, where else would I go? And I said, well, first thing I would encourage people to do is go back to your understanding of who is it you're looking for, and go to other people, clients, peers, other people, and say, I'm looking for the following intersection point. Do you see it? Do you know where it is? And can you invite me there? And start exploring, because staying in places where you're not creating clients does not create you money.
Say that again. That's a writer downer. Say it again.
Yeah, staying in places that don't create you money is a waste of time. And it's not to say, and I tell this to my clients all the time, you can be in great networking organizations, great communities of peers, but if you're in a room of mediocrity, you need to get out of it, because truthfully, you will take the friendships with you, but are you growing your business? Because this is a choice of your day. I am not about adding more hours to the day. Hence the idea of where I started, which was 1 hour a day. I said, I want you to use your time more effectively and get back to the business math, and recognize if you're not in the right rooms, your number one priority is always to make an offer and to go find people that are interested in it. And so you are constantly adjusting your strategy and choosing whichever tactic you want. But the tactic is the execution. The strategy is, where am I starting and where do I want to go?
Why do so many people have a problem with their messaging?
Because they honestly don't know what they do. Truthfully, they don't know what they do, and they really have a hard time seeing their own value.
Stay right there.
Sure.
How should they be asking themselves this question? I help people with, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is, so that they can, whatever the result is,
Yep.
right? So,
and the thing is, they've usually found that answer by copying somebody else's.
And so when you introduce yourself, Christine, how do you introduce yourself in a networking environment so you can find your people?
Yeah, well, the first thing to do is I would never describe myself. I would say, truthfully, if you are not able to find clients in your business, you're in the wrong room, you don't know what to say, or you don't have a clear plan. If that sounds like you and you don't have clients in your business, let's talk about a client growth engine. I help people with 3 foundations. My name is Christine. Come find me. I'll be at the back of the room.
There you go. There you go.
And I don't take it the traditional way because people don't care what I do.
No, they don't.
And they honestly, the big thing often kind of when you're really struggling to find clients, you get caught into describing the how. And, I have been working with a client of mine now where this is a very prevalent conversation this week. I said, I know what you do. I know how you do it, but that is just a vehicle. It's not going to help you be found by the next buyer because they're not yet asking how, they're asking what.
Yeah.
And what is the intersection point? I said, you've got to figure out what do they want? What are they craving? What are they searching for? What have they tried? I said, that's an intersection point. Stop telling me how. I'm not meeting you and interested about how yet. Not yet.
And yet we get mired in the minutia of this. And then a floodgate of benefits instead of results. Well,
and it does. I know this is the tell. If you're listening to us and you're hearing this, if you go into an offer saying it includes, ever use those words, you're in this camp, it includes 4 of this, 3 of that, a balloon, a lollipop, and a unicorn, and we're going to blah, 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 blah. And they're so going, wow, that sounds like work. I am not on board for this. And somebody else will sell me a magic pill and they will go spend that money with a magic pill. And absolutely. That is a choice you made. I don't want you to keep
because people are lazy, is that people don't want the complication. Life's complicated already. Correct. So how would you present an offer?
So to me, I go back to what I said. I said, what do you think you want? And that's often not always really clear,
right?
Because they're still asking what. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about what you want. What result do you seek? Why are you, go back to the same questions. Why are you think I'm capable of helping you get that? And I ask this question, why is that non-negotiable for you? And because I'm really clear, if it's not non-negotiable, we are not in a buying conversation. They're curiosity. They're seekers. They're looking for information, but we're not at an offer yet. And I don't rush the offer. No. I do make them when they say it's not negotiable because of this. I said, well, what does the next step look like? Would you like me to make you an offer? And yes, and say, okay, well, based on what I know about you, I feel because in my lens, this is your next step because we're going to focus on this result and knowing a little bit about you. This is the best support I believe you need. And this is how I will help support and guide you. And one of the things I do with you, like you, is a very high touch service. I said, I am not going to take your money and you're not going to be able to contact me. I'm going to work with you. I said, a lot of my clients come into this saying, I get the theory, I need a working session. And that might be drilling into the buyer. That might be writing emails. It might be, I said, I'm not hired to be your marketing person, but I'm very good at the marketing element, but my goal line is clients. So I am here to help you with sales, but you think you have a marketing problem. And I said, partly it could be a marketing problem because you don't have a strategy. Likely we're not clear on the offer and you're not clear of this simple question. Why would I hire you? Because you've got caught in the room of enlightenment where everyone loves you and you're a likable expert. And said, that's cool. But when's the last time you made an offer that got to yes? And I want you to shift from being really intentional about these simple questions so that you are clear on the strategy and you can identify quickly who is the potential buyer, lead them to a curiosity conversation. And if you feel there's an opportunity to get the result, you have to lead it and lead the conversation. Because when somebody's in a dialogue with you, the number one thing they do is borrow your confidence. That says, I've been to that place, I know how to get there. And more importantly, if you're doing this in a mentorship way, I know how to guide you and help you find your way. Because I am so tired of the marketplace of this, there's only one way to do something. No, you have to have a framework, but you get to choose how you play, because I want, at the end of the day, more people succeeding. I want more people to have businesses that feel like oxygen. And when I say you're building your business empire, I said because it's the way that you're fueling your lifestyle. And that's a choice. You don't have to fit into somebody else's box. You get to build your own table. You get to build your own communities. And the easiest way to do that is with somebody really solid in their business acumen.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. I love the message, the fact that we've got a framework for building out that business and an understanding of what those 4 important questions are. Mm-hmm. Christine, tell me what CLEAR is. CLEAR acceleration.
Yeah, it's twofold. First off, it's a bit of an inside joke because it is actually an acronym. It's my husband and my initials that come together as we were talking about building an empire and doing various things together. CLEAR came out of that. But truthfully, it also came from when you said, you asked one time, sometimes why do we struggle? I said, we don't know what we bring to the table because we have a hard time recognizing our value. Working in communities and getting peers to give you feedback is essential. And what kept coming up over and over and over again when I was out building my business reputation in the world of entrepreneurship, people kept saying, I love you because you're so clear. And I kept hearing, your clarity is attractive because I feel like I'm a hot mess. And I said, I feel like a hot mess too. Like I'm a work in progress. And you and I are in a mastermind, so we know that about each other. So we are still evolving our clarity. But I do know this. Everything comes from a starting point. You've got to have a destination. And my big belief in the simplicity that business is to focus on the movement, because movement is what builds momentum. You have to take focused action. And so CLEAR to me was about the moment you can see it, you can create it, but you're going to need vision, strategy, frameworks. And truthfully, the great thing about empire building is it's movement, and that's acceleration. And I said, you get to choose this. And what you'll hear from me is we're always talking about solve for capacity. And I want you to not work more hours. I want you to work the hours you want and be productive in them with people you choose to play with, because that's what you should have as a business. It should not be an anomaly like a unicorn. And right now, I think that too often people are contorting themselves into something that they think it should be versus really building something that they want to light up. And I think this is an interesting piece of the puzzle, which we haven't talked about. But when I tell people, I said, my job really clearly as a mentor or as a strategic advisor, depending on where I'm in as a capacity to help you, my job is to be a fuel source, to bring a network that's fuel sources, to bring strategic people.
So when you bring a network of people for that fueling, are you talking about the sphere of people and the business people or the parts that your clients need? Is that what you're referencing?
I'm talking first about the network of other collaborative people, and that can be both skill set as well as financial, as well as just general communities you should be part of. But I said what's really important is you have the fire lit. If you want to create wealth, and I don't mean just financial wealth, I mean wealth, the multifaceted health, friendship, community, spiritual, and financial, then you've got to be the one who lights the engine. And I know because I've had the opportunity to both formally lead people and have this opportunity now to mentor people by choice. I said, my job is not to drag you there. I mean, you don't need to sell me. I mean, I am your business bestie. I have your 100% interest in my mind. So if I'm asking you a question, it's meant in kindness with a directness, which is tell me where you stand on this, because something is incongruent. You have a blind spot. So either correct the blind spot or correct the vision and help me see it so I can support you better. But you have to be your own fuel source, because my job is to help you add oxygen and fuel to it, but I'm not going to drag you. I'm not going to be the person who wants this for you more than you want it for yourself, because I can set the vision and hold it when you wobble, but I won't do it 365 days a year because you're building your business.
Oh, and don't a lot of clients see that as your fundamental value, or that they believe that that's what you should be doing for them. So I love the fact that you're setting the line and creating a definition of where am I going to keep helping you? Where am I going to stop helping you? Where am I going to push you because that is more help?
That's right. And I said, you've asked me to be the expert in the world of business in a skill set that maybe you don't have 100% confident on, or even you've got some gaps. I have a really unique background in the fact that I started my early career in marketing and in the tech world, actually, in startup. And I kept saying it has to be more than pretty, which is not really popular in the world of marketing. But I said, truly, it has to be more than sizzle, because I know that the people who fund marketing are sales. And I knew that because I grew up in a household where my dad was a great salesman. And then marketing people would get irritated with me and say, fine, you go sell, and that you go make the presentations and you be the face of this. And I got respected by business development people. And then I said, they kept saying, we'd actually like you to see you on this side of the table. And I went into business development, and I spent a lot of time there building sales skills, building influence, building collaborations, getting people to see a vision and then say yes. But then I would turn around and I'd look at ops and go, what the hell, peeps? Like, why can't we deliver the last 10 feet?
We still have to make money at this. It can't just be, just can't be a smoky mirror, right?
No, and so then I found myself in ops, and I was a very senior leader in the world of operations. And I said, but I really was great because I could connect the dots. And when you're working with a mentor, you're working with somebody who's in a strategic advisory capacity to you, you need somebody who understands all the functions, so how they connect. Because I think when we talked earlier about complexity, the biggest challenge is you can have a great person in the world of marketing, but if they can't understand how it connects to sales, to ops, to the product fulfillment, you will get really good at the tactic, but not be able to execute the result. You need people who bring the glue together, and not a lot of people want to play there.
No,
and that's where you people get sold.
They also get burned out because, if you've got one weak link that doesn't get what, and let's just say they're higher up and the echelon, they have more dollars or zeros onto their salary. That they don't really see it. They may be a visionary, but they don't see the pieces underneath it that have to build it. And I've been in a lot of tech startups, East Coast tech startups, where you had the leader of the company that was the engineer.
A lot. Yeah.
The engineers will never, ever believe it's ready to go to market. We got one more thing. It can't do this, and it's got it. And you see a lot of startups fail because of that, or they'll bring, the VCs will come in and put in a person that says, we're, the face of the company that's now going to go out and sell that. It's an interesting space, because we as entrepreneurs find ourselves in various stages of that as well. Even though you've never run a company or you haven't been the head of operations, when you've got a small business, you are doing each one of those tasks alone, aren't you?
You are. And that's why honestly, I think it's so important to have a mentor who has got a bigger business, broad vision than you, because, when you're growing, you will wear more than one hat, for sure. And you cannot physically have expertise in all of the areas, but what you don't know hurts you, because you are still the ultimate decision maker. And I tell people, you can't abdicate the responsibility, but you can ask the questions. And if you don't know what questions to ask, then go spend some time with a really great advisor who can say, these are questions to ask. And then we can talk about, what do the answers tell us? So we can, again, use that framework or the strategy to make a good decision. And I think one of the most important business skills is not that you come to the table with marketing, and not that you come to the table with sales, although you're going to learn to acquire the sales skills. That's
you're going to have to. Otherwise, you've got a hobby.
That's right. But you're going to come with it is you've got to learn to be a critical thinker. You've got to learn to make decisions quickly, knowing they will always be imperfect, but you can solve whatever you encounter.
Oh,
you have to get your head around that. And I know one of my favorite clients, came to me because she inherited a business, and she never expected to be an entrepreneur, but she's like, there's this growing interest that makes a lot of money that I think I'm kind of curious about. But she thought the answer was going to be social media, again, tactic. She's like, so when I saw her in a women's networking group saying, I think I need social media help, and I watched like 25 or 30 people start pinging into this chat, here's my rate, here's what I'll do, blah, blah, blah. And I just watched this woman I'd never met go,
And they're
Stop.
going, stop.
Stop,
Right.
shut down the chat, turn off the comments, do something. And I just said to her, I don't think that social media is where you start. It's an option for sure. But I said, tell me a little bit about your business. What do you want the business vision to be? Do you want to just grab a coffee? Because I think that's a question you should start with.
Yes.
And she's like, I don't know how to be a business owner. And I said, okay, well, she's like, I think talking to you every week would be really helpful. Do you have capacity for a client? And I wasn't in that place to make an offer, but I did make one. She did become a client. She's been with me now a couple of years. And the big thing was, we get so convinced in the complexity that there's a Band-Aid for it. I said, you have to have the foundations. You have to think about what you want. And the funniest bit of this is none of us, I have been in the world of business like almost 30 years. I have a lot of advantages because I've had 30 years. Don't set yourself up to fail because you decided to go and do this right away without support. It's crazy.
It is. But, Christine, you took it a step back and said, let's peel back the layers and let's go figure out what problem do you think you have, right? Because she thought that the problem initially was social media. And of course, as soon as she put her hand up and said, I need social media help, all of the people that were in that tuned into that vibration said, okay, here it is. And she quickly was overwhelmed with it. When you understand that it's a series of questions and answers, but not knowing what the questions are, leading into that, what can you advise our audience to, besides that basic question of asking ourselves, what should we be asking a client?
Yeah, the thing the thing you always want to remember is that you want to create value. The whole business moves, money moves, outcomes get achieved because there's a value exchange. So the biggest question you want to think about asking is, what is valuable to you? And that's what I had the conversation with her. I said, why are you looking at social media? She's like, well, I need to make sales. I said, you need to make sales. Choosing to do so on social media is optional. And truthfully, she sells rare manuscripts, and people like the Library of Congress, who are her clients, are not finding her on TikTok.
No,
okay?
They're not doing.
So I'm not sure this is the best tactic, but fair enough. You need to be visible somewhere. Let's talk about that later. But
yeah, but you've got to be
how do you create
the audience that is your audience, not to any audience, right? You've got to be selective. Right.
You get to choose how you play. And that's the message I hope everyone hears from today's conversation. But the big question is, how do you create value? And this is something that you should be asking all the time. Instead, you never lead to an offer without being clear, why is this valuable to you? And you should be thinking about, as a business owner, how do I want to create value? And the key thing in our conversation about money in the lane of business is the only time money moves hands is when the value is higher than the investment. There's got to be a gap. Otherwise, it's a nice to have. It's a luxury. It's not a necessity. And your job to find the next client is it's a necessity for them.
Oh, valuable stuff. Christine, you've got a summit coming up. I think we're both overlapping each other's summits in the next couple of weeks. Tell me what your summit is about.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I am running a summit. I have a lot of clients who are in the service-based industries, and they want to build their business with 10 to 30 people. They want to build it in the high-ticket offer arena. And I am so disheartened to people who think it's either the lazy way to grow a business and not do any work, or people are buying and investing in high-ticket programs and services and not getting the result because people are not delivering at a high standard.
Oh, good.
I want to change
an intersection. Holy cow.
So I'm determined to change it because, I've always thought if you don't see the conversations you want, it's because you're asked to create them. So I have an event. It's called Heroes of High-Ticket Business Growth. I am bringing a team of great business owners who win in this arena and do it at a very high standard for their business and for their client results. And what I love about what I've created, and it's not the first time I've done it, but this is the opportunity to work on your business, not just in your business. After every 2 speakers, we're going to do mini masterminds. We're going to break out, we're going to get the knowledge applied to our business. And each day accumulates. We're going to talk about where to find them and how do you get your mindset around making offers. We're going to talk about how do you leverage other people's audience so you can find the right rooms to be in. And then we're going to talk about team and systems that you can do this in a way that feels like oxygen. And then day 3 is like, please market and sell. so that you win. And so I'm really excited. It's 28th through 30th. Tickets are free. You can find them at ChristineCampbellRapin.com. This is the room, if you're a service-based business, you want to be in, because it's also the room of peers that want to grow their business the same way. So you have an opportunity to really get great feedback as you try to figure out the onion of who are you, what do you stand for, where you're going to play, how you're going to win there.
That's right. And what kind of value do you bring to the table? That's so good. So good. You also have a free offer. Was that your free offer? I think that was your free offer.
Yeah, I'm going to give two. So you can certainly come to the event. Please, love to have you there. Second thing is, if you're wondering, well, where do I go find these clients? And you're not sure what lane is yours, I do have a free resource. It's a 25 ways to attract an audience of buyers. These are rooms I know, tactics I know are working right now. I want you to find the resource. It's on the homepage. And I want you to pick one. I don't want you to do 25 things. I'm not advocating complexity. I'm going to say pick one and then read the section that says what's a buyer, because this is the whole piece I think people miss. Not all visibility is equal. If you're in the wrong room, so somebody will never buy your products, you're going to go broke in that room. But there is something specific that a buyer is, your ability to spot it, identify it, and move it predictably. What will create the empire. And so this is a free resource. It will help you keep focused on simplicity and do so in a way that you get to choose.
That's awesome. Christine, I can't believe our time is already up, but thank you so much for joining me today and giving us the pillars, the foundations of building a business, the right questions to ask, and the way to get yourself into a high ticket program.
Yes.
And so
thank you. Love it.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And that's a wrap today. So thank you all for joining us today, and join us again next week when we bring you more stories from the inside. Do you like to talk about money? If you do, and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.